if indeed Chelsea wants to be the sort of team that wants to control games, you have to have the players to do that. I'm not quite sure that Chelsea has those players just yet.
Is Maresca more of that profile then for Chelsea, Gab? Is that the way they're viewing it? Somebody who they will be more easy to talk to for them?
Look, I think what we need to understand is, Chelsea aren't chopping and changing, right? Or rather, they say they're not. And I think it would be stupid for them, having embarked on this incredibly ambitious, incredibly risky, potentially disastrous, but maybe really clever plan to go and vacuum up all the best talent that they could find at vast expense. They need somebody who can follow through on it. The business model is based on this. It's based on, Malo Gusto and Enzo and Moises Caicedo and the long-term contracts and all this stuff. This is what they want to do. Obviously, Pochettino wanted to win sooner, and that was maybe part of the reason why there was some friction there. First and foremost, they have to find somebody, having assembled the players, they need somebody to coach the players, so they need somebody who'll buy into it. Would a veteran manager with an ego and a reputation and trophies, is he necessarily the best person to do this? Probably not. So you get somebody like Maresca, who I agree is definitely more pliable. The other guys they looked at, Kieran McKenna, 38 years old, right? 2 promotions from Ipswich. He has 0 experience managing in a top flight. Thomas Frank worked in a system very similar to what they're trying to do. At Brighton, there is this vast scouting operation and so on, and they know what the manager wants, they know how they want to play, and the manager goes and executes. And Thomas Frank, I think, does it very well. That's what they're looking for in Maresca. That said, I think Ali made a really good point. If the idea is about more control, more possession, more passing oriented, and that's certainly how Leicester played, I'm just not 100% sure that they have the players there to do it, because once you get past Cole Palmer and maybe Enzo Fernandez, this is not exactly a team, stacked with Xavis and Iniestas, including the defenders, I might add. Many great players, but also many of the wingers are very direct. Not really that type of player. So again, Maresca will have to adapt to what's there, and it's going to be a question of how much, if he is the coach in the end, and that's by no means certain as we're taping this, he's going to have to figure out to work and get the best out in developing what's there.
So every day this week we will be looking at a Premier League club in depth, and yes, no surprises for guessing that today it is going to be Chelsea. We're going to be recapping the season that was. It was a 6th place finish in the table in the end, qualifying for the Europa Conference League. Manchester United said no Europa League for you guys next year. Now this all came amidst an unsettled season with many new players. So let's hear what Ben Chilwell had to say about it all to ESPN FC's James Ollie.
You obviously joined the club almost 4 years ago. You've kind of seen the change, all of the change behind the scenes. And do you feel it's kind of, people kind of underestimate it a little bit, just the sheer scale of it, from the owner right the way down to obviously all the players?
Yeah, it's been pretty much since I joined. It's a completely different club. So yeah, I think you kind of have to really appreciate it to be inside it, to have seen literally, like you say, the sheer change that has kind of gone on. But it's not an excuse. Obviously there have been ups and downs along the way, but there definitely has been a big change in terms of from the very bottom to the top, and it's just something that we've tried to kind of work through and kind of navigate as a club, while the expectation to win games as well.
Because obviously people focus a lot on this season, obviously with the new manager coming in and everything, but that it feels like that context is quite important, that the sort of level of change over the last 2-3 years in total is kind of relevant to what you guys have been trying to do now and sort of redefining the club. I mean, does it feel like a different club to the one that you signed for in some ways?
Yeah, I would say so. I've spoken about it before in interviews that I came into the club with a pretty settled changing room that had won trophies together. So for me to kind of integrate into that, it was kind of like fed into me that I was coming here to win trophies, and that was what was expected. at Chelsea, and obviously at that time Chelsea were very successful in terms of winning trophies. So I kind of came in to that and that expectation, whereas now there's only, you know, 2 or 3 of us, I think me, Reece and Thiago, that are still here from then. So it's kind of, we're the only 3 players that have had experiences of winning trophies here. So it is really on us to try and embed that into the new players. But of course, when you're a new player coming into a completely new changing room with a lot of other new players, you know, I can't really comprehend how different that probably is to the changing room that I came into.
So we asked the guys to play teachers, and these are the grades that they have given for Chelsea's season. Frank, Mario and Ale may be a little generous with B's here.
What?
Gab, definitely
What?
not so generous with a C. So let's start with some of the positivity. Frank, why is it a B for you?
It's hard to explain. You know, I see the club, I see the players, what they expect to do. And I say, when you finish 6th, you play one final. When, you know, you at the beginning of the season started to struggle, and at some point in the season you were like 13, 14, and you end up, you know, being 6th at the end of the season, qualifying for Europe. It's not that bad. It's not that bad because I consider the level of the squad, what Craig called the shamble of the club, and overall, you say, well, it's not that bad because you don't expect that at the end of the day. We saw last season what happened. We knew that it would be the same, and it's better. So they have to be encouraged in that matter. I don't know where we're going to go. We're going to talk about the future after, during the show. But let's say I want to be positive, optimistic, and it's why I put a B.
Is that the same opinion of you then, Mario? You've picked a B as well. Is it because you wanted to be positive and optimistic?
No, I made it clear from the beginning of the season. I said, like, if they make it into Europe, it's a big advantage. And so it's, of course, it's similar to what Frank said. But I also said that. I said, like, you know, when people look at a team like that, when I came, of course, when Abramovich came in, and it was a whole similar situation that was happening when, you know, Boli and, you know, Ekbali came in. It was similar. You know, you had to rebuild and restructure and all this going on. And it's unsettlement so much. You're in the team. You almost like, you want to, you know, hear what the owners say, but then they come in the dressing room, they give their point of view, but then they walk away. You know, they're not going to be part of the building because of the team, literally how they're going to play. So I knew they were going to be in a difficult situation. But then you see what happens. Then you're 12th in the league, then you get it to 6th, now you get to Europe. And I'm sure people will talk about what they're going to do next. Okay, I don't want to, you know, run too fast, but I just want to say 6th point, the 6th position into Europe is a big achievement regarding a new squad that you don't know anybody about and just have to make a team. And that's what kind of Pochettino had to do.
Ali, we just heard Chilwell there talking about all the changes. Did that contribute to you giving them a B, those factors?
Well, you're saying that we're being optimistic by giving this team, and it almost felt like you said you almost are thinking this is charity work that we're giving B's out just for the sake of it.
B's a pass.
Well, no, I can tell you this. When I'm giving out this grade, I'm looking for improvement. And so I actually went and looked at the numbers. So beyond opinion, I looked at factual numbers. And this team was 19 points better this season than they were last year. In terms of goals scored, this team were in the 30s last season. They scored 77 goals this season. They won 7 more games than they did last year. So that's improvement. That's actually something that you can hang on to and say, yes, actually, in results, in performances, the team was better than what it was last season. And so if you're seeing improvement, it may not be a major leap, but it is an improvement and it's significant enough for me to say, yeah, you know what? Actually, this team seems to be moving in the right direction. What would have been an A in my mind for Chelsea this season? Qualifying to Champions League, being in the top 4. I imagine that would be an A. Well, they're not far from it. So a B seems like the right score. It seems like the right grade, not charity, Kay. Be respectful of your professors, please. Thank you very much.
Gab, so why are you being so negative with a C, huh?
Well, first of all, C is a passing grade. I look at this a little bit differently. Yeah, results are important, and there's no question, Ali's right. They've improved tremendously over last season. The numbers speak for themselves. But we're grading the club and where the club are compared to 12 months before. And this is not a judgment of merit because it was beyond their control. But one of the goals this season was to go and develop these young players and get them to coalesce. Because a number of players, not anybody's fault, were injured, including a lot of the really big signings, Romeo Lavia, Wesley Fofana, we heard Chilwell mentioning Reece James. Well, Chilwell's hardly played. Reece James has hardly played. They weren't able to do that. Now, it's not anybody's fault that they weren't able to do that, but it just didn't happen. So all this information that you were going to gather this year, that, Stuart and Winstanley and the nerds and the planners with the young players and so on, all of that information that you were hoping to get, you were not able to get. Now, I repeat, it's not your fault that these guys got hurt, but that is a big chunk, I think, of what was missing. The fact that they have to start with a new manager, also a negative. Doesn't mean they should have kept Pochettino necessarily, but clearly that is also something that I think, in my mind, affects the grade. Obviously, they finished very, very strongly. We saw some, they uncovered a gem in Cole Palmer, Jackson improved, and so on. All these things are positives. But when you look at the bigger picture of the long-term project of what the club as a whole want to do, unfortunately, they were not able to do it this year because so many big pieces, Nkunku, the other obvious one, weren't a part of it.
So is that the hope then for Maresca, Gab? Because if it is to be Maresca and you are saying he's going to have to work with what he's got, are you looking at that? Are you looking at him drawing on his experience at working with youth team players and developing them?
I don't think he needs to necessarily develop youth team players. He just happens to have a lot of young players there. He certainly worked with some tremendous young players when he was looking after the under-21s at City. And then obviously as Pep's assistant coach, replacing Juan Malillo for that year in 22-23. So that's going to be the starting point. I think as long as they're very, very clear with each other and very honest about the fact that, for example, Chelsea could run into serious issues with profit and sustainability rules because they spent so much money before and they didn't have the Champions League income this year, obviously. So they may need to make some painful decisions. They may not be able to add to the squad in certain positions the way a new manager would want them to. These are all calls that he's have to make. If they've been honest with him from day one and he says, fine, I will work in these conditions, then that's important. If they're honest with him, if they say, hey, look, I mean, one of the reasons that Pochettino left supposedly, had to do with the signing of a set-piece coach that he didn't feel was necessary, he didn't want. As long as the club say, hey, we believe in set-piece coaches, we believe in analytics, we believe in scouting younger players, we want to play this type of football. Are you on board with it? Oh, and by the way, you have to do it with the guys who are here. We may not be able to spend enormous amounts of money because of this and that. Are you okay with it? Then if Maresca goes in eyes wide open, then I think he's an excellent choice. Where clubs run into problems is when coaches start to believe their own hype, their own ego. They want to win. They get judged on it. And then they say, buy me this, buy me that. I don't want the set-piece coach. I've got my magic circle of assistants here. We're more than enough. You have to be clear with each other, any employer-employee relationship. You have to be clear with each other from day one.
And who are some of the names, Gab, that they're looking at to move on or who they'll have to sell? Will we be seeing Conor Gallagher leaving Chelsea after all?
Well, obviously, Conor Gallagher is a guy who's been talked about a lot because his contract is winding down. I think they can get a good fee from Ian Maatsen as well. Maybe not the 60 million release clause that they put in there or 60 million clause to make the deal to Borussia Dortmund permanent. But I think he's been phenomenal in 6 months with Borussia Dortmund and will be starting in the Champions League final. So they can work something out there. That'll raise some funds. There's other young players who have a market. But again, you've got the question mark. You just paid 80 million for Romeo Lavia. He's been injured all season. You can't sell him because nobody will buy him for that kind of money because nobody knows if he can play. Nobody knows what condition he's in. Gallagher is somebody you see every week, so that's being talked about. I think it's a tough position to make. And again, if you're going to talk about going with a heavy pass-oriented approach, as some people are suggesting, and then it's all about positioning, which were Maresca priorities over at Leicester. Does Gallagher really fit that style of play? Is tight passing and tight, intricate passing in congested areas? Is that his forte? Maybe not. So those are calls that they're going to have to make.
Mario, Gab was just talking obviously about the injuries that Chelsea have had to contend with this past season. Have they actually got the squad when they are fit to contend next season and to make a difference in the Premier League next year?
I think when you're a new manager, right, and you come into a squad, and Maresca, when he came, the highlight why they're speaking to him is because he did. It's almost like his call with them, in the sense of like when they go and meet, like they're in Marbella now talking to him. But the guys who are talking to him are like Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winsley. Those are the guys that are important for the recruitment side of Chelsea. So they are going over and talking to him. What they were surprised by, that Maresca knew so much about Chelsea. He knew about all the players. He said, like, I'm familiar with your whole squad. I know all the individuals. But now key moment is going to come, because the way he wants to play. I think Gab highlighted it. You have to have the individuals that can play your type of football. He wants to be, the advancing wing backs. People have to be involved in the game, control the game. Surprise people, pick them out, open them up, and try to use the spaces that people are not filling in. This is the type of football he played at Leicester. This is the type of football he wants to play. So it's kind of like what Guardiola plays, right? I have the ball, I make you tired, I be in control, and the moment when you see that you make a mistake, I penetrate. Okay, so that's Gab highlighted from the players that they have. He said he has everybody. He said, I don't need anything. I'm good. I know all the players. I want to work with this squad. And I think that is almost like saying to yourself, I don't need anybody. But then he said that, and they're going after the defender from Fulham. Why? Because Silva's leaving. And now they're saying like, hey, maybe we have to make a move. Because you have to remember, the Sassi, and he's one of the key players that has to take the job from Colwell. Came also. When Silva is gone, Silva is the calm at the back because of the experience. Now they have to do it by themselves, the young boys. Buddy Achille, the same thing. They have to do that.
So if there are areas then that do need strengthening, Frank, where would you say they are with this Chelsea team?
I'm not sure I understood your question. You want me where they have to get stronger? Is what you asked me?
Which areas, which players could they bring in which positions to make them stronger next season? What do they need?
They need most players back first, and I think players like Reece James or Gusto on the right side, maybe Chilwell instead of Cucurella on the left side, will bring something different. Definitely they need a striker. Unless Jackson starts scoring goals after goal. I think Caicedo and Fernandes, have to be the player that we're expecting them to be. And then after, I take the example of Leverkusen this season, who have been absolutely fantastic with mostly unknown players. But the chemistry went so well that they created a miracle this season in Bundesliga. It's possible for Chelsea to do that. But Xabi Alonso was so clever to bring only one player in the middle of the box, and it's called Xhaka, playing for Arsenal, where everybody thought that the guy would go to pre-retirement to Leverkusen. And I think Ali said that last time in the last show that I was in, that nobody expected that Xhaka would have the best season of his career and bring the Bundesliga to Leverkusen. Maybe Chelsea needs a player like that. Maybe as a centre-back, and Mario alluded it. And for sure, they need an experienced players, but definitely for me in the middle of the park. Somebody who's a leader, somebody who knows exactly what to do, somebody who can, control everybody, make sure that everybody sticks to the same ideas. They definitely need somebody. The spine has to be reinforced at Chelsea for sure.
I don't know what's going on because Gab's agreeing with you. We've got Frank endorsing you here. Okay. I suppose you'll be the right person to tell us what, if it is Maresca, his message should be in his first team talk with this Chelsea side.
What is the problem with Frank and Gab and Mario and all of us agreeing upon something?
I'm not used to such harmony on an episode of ESPN FC.
Well, just because there is a negativity in the studio doesn't mean that it has to be a bad show. That's all I'm saying.
What's the message from Maresca to these players to start the season off?
I think the first thing that he has to get across to his players is a sense of belief that he knows what he's doing. And that, I think that's true for just about every manager who walks into a big job like this. The players must buy in right away. And it's a leap of faith from the players, and it's also a leap of faith from the manager, in that he's going to trust players to do a job. And now the players are going to trust him to be able to put them in positions in which they can be successful. But there's only so much you can do in training. And there's only so much you can do in preseason matches. But those first couple of sessions will tell a lot to the players as to what is this manager all about, and can we see right through it. If he doesn't come across as a guy that you can trust to do the job, you can see right through that. You have a feeling as a player. You know what you do? You develop spidey senses when it comes to managers. And there are managers that walk in and right away you say, yep, there's a plan in place here. And there are other managers that you go, oh no. He's got to get through those first couple of sessions in which the players actually go, yeah, this guy has a plan and we believe in what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. When you look at this, go on, Gab.
One thing that totally works in his favor here is if you look, that's the good thing about playing with young players, right? If you were to look at this Chelsea squad and you ask them, all right, how many of these guys worked with brilliant, legendary managers in the past, and they're going to go and compare Maresca to, Jurgen Klopp or Ancelotti or whatever. It's just not going to happen. The only ones who played with, truly, or who worked for a truly top drawer manager in the past with all the charisma and everything, hey, look, it's Raheem Sterling and Cole Palmer. And guess what? They already know Enzo Maresca because they worked with Enzo Maresca. Sterling, obviously, when he was there the first time around, and Cole Palmer 2 years ago. So I think that is certainly something that works in his favor as well in terms of getting buy-in from these players. You're not dealing with a bunch of grumpy veterans who are going to, sit around and say, oh, well, Moreno used to do it this way. It's just not going to happen.
But you are coming off a guy, Mauricio Pochettino, who is an accomplished manager. So there will be comparison right away. There will be, if you were one of Pochettino's guys, if you're one of his players, right? And you hear this guy give you a message and it doesn't quite match the sort of message that you are getting from Pochettino, look, you're going to be reticent to listening to the message until you actually see it play out on the field and prove the manager right. Until you see that evidence, players don't just buy in just for the sake of buying in. They need to see it, and they need to see it displayed on the field.
Mario?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What Gab said, I don't agree with that. Because, you know why? Because it doesn't work like that in football. That's what maybe the world sees from the outside. When we're in the team and we have a man standing in front of us and we don't believe in him, believe me, it's going to be questioned. I played with Frank, and Frank knows when we stood in the dressing room and we didn't like somebody, and I have guys around me, you understand, that have so much experience, if the manager is telling me something that I don't like, I'm going to ask the players. I had to, because I was a young boy when I came in that team, 21 years old. I look at Frank, I go like, hey, dude, you believe in him? And if he gives me the feeling or the sense it's not right, I am going to follow him 100% because this is the guy that won what I'm dreaming to win. So why I'm not going to listen to him? I'm going to listen to the manager? No, guys, it doesn't work like that. In football, it does not work like that. The coach can only win us respect by performing what he does in the training ground and showing us exactly like, hey, we all believe in his pattern and what he wants to achieve. And then we see like, hey, it's really working. Then we go. We're maybe not going to question his trophies or his winning, but we're definitely going to question it, what he wants to achieve, and we have to see the difference that is really possible to happen. If that happens, amen, let's go.
Gab?
No, but I agree with what Mario said, but my point is, and I remember, because I'm old, I remember when Mario came to Chelsea, and I remember that Frank was there. Guess what? There is no Frank Leboeuf at Chelsea. The veteran defender who's actually won things, he's not there. They look around, and they're looking at Badiashile and Disasi and Malo Gusto. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is partly by design. They don't want a squad with veteran players who've been successful. Other than Raheem Sterling, nobody's actually won anything of note on this team. And obviously Enzo won the World Cup as a younger player. So I think they hope that that can smooth the path a little bit. And as for the Pochettino guys, sure, but it's not like, Pochettino's the guy who led them to 3 Champions League titles. With all due respect to Pochettino, he was there for a year. He got along great with some players, didn't get along so well with other players. So I don't think that that's a huge hurdle to climb. And that's going to be up to Maresca, of course, to get buy-in. There's no questioning that.
You know that Gab used to be. I remember Gab being a Pochettino guy. And man, that has changed dramatically. To make his point, that has changed dramatically. Goodness.
Yeah, Gab.
I still love my Pochettino.
Gab, don't change, please.
Frank, you get the final say on Chelsea.
The thing, yeah, just to go back to what Mario said and Gab also, you need some players to rely on when you sign to a club. When I signed for Chelsea, I was checking Dennis Wise. He was the leader, the skipper, and he knew the club. And when when Mario signed, he went to me because I was a defender, because I was older than him, and I was at the club for a longer time. So you need to rely. You need to rely on experiences, and you don't have those players, as Gab said, at Chelsea right now. The leaders are football leaders like Cole Palmer, brand new at Chelsea, and where's going to be Chilwell, where's going to be Reece James next season, if they're going to play or not, we don't know. But those only players can maybe be the players where the other can rely on. That's the only way you can go for a certain trust to the coach. The coach is not there for a long time. He's the newest of the newest, and that's the main problem for me and the main concern. The balance is very fragile at Chelsea. So we're capable of giving a B for the season, but we don't know what's going to happen next season.
No, we don't know what's going to happen, Frank, but we are going to put you on the spot now and ask for your way too early predictions as to where Chelsea are going to finish next season. And I'm going to start with you.
So that's completely useless what I just said, according to your question. Oh my God, that's so difficult. I would say, so far, I would say six. I would say 6 would be good.
6, okay,
So
Mario.
far. I cannot say more than that.
I believe in the movement going forward. From 12 to 6, I will give them 4th Champions League spot.
Oh, Gab.
It is way too early. I think if they finish 6th and develop and the players grow, I think that's a good season.
Ali.
I'm going to split the difference between me and Mario, and instead of being 6th to 4th, I'll say that they'll take a minor jump to 5.
Okay, so still some improvement.
Improvement, but let's not get crazy.
Maybe a B plus from you.
No.
Maybe a B plus from you.
Yes, well, if they do that, it'll be a B plus, yes.
It will be improvement. Okay, if you do want to see Chelsea this summer, here are some of the pre-season friendlies in the US. Wrexham, Celtic, Club America, Man City and Real Madrid. And here is the QR code for their game against Wrexham. So make sure to check that out if you're interested in going.